Sometimes. Sometimes God brings us to church on Sunday morning because the word that He will speak, the teaching that He has for us, is specifically exactly tailored to us as an individual, to one of us, to each of us as individuals. Sometimes God has a word for us, and so He calls us to the hour of worship, to the fellowship of believers, to this time in His presence, because the word that He has, the teaching that He has, is specifically designed for something that is going on in our individual lives. This morning, the teaching that you'll hear, for some of you, will speak directly to something you're going through. Sometimes God brings us to the time of worship into His presence because the word, the teaching that He'll share with us is not specifically for us at that moment, but for someone out in our lives. And so God brings us here to not only grow us as His children, but to instruct our hearts, so that what He shares with us, we can share with someone out there that needs the word, that needs the teaching, that needs the grace. This morning God speaks a word to all of us. Maybe because this word is speaking to your heart and your life in something that is going on with you today, right now. And maybe the word that you hear this morning with your ears, and I pray with your heart and your soul, is a word that is for someone in your life. They need to hear this, and God is using you as a venue. We go back to the gospel lesson this morning, and this powerful, powerful word from Jesus. This word that speaks to every child that belongs to Him. Listen to Him speak. If you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. You know, we want the best for the people that we love. I suppose if we go around the church this morning, we could get 100% consensus on that fact. We want the best for people we love. Because we love them, because it's the nature of what it means to love another human being. We want in their lives the fullness, the contentment, the completeness, the joy, the happiness that comes with having the best of life. If we love them, because we love them, we want the best for them. That is not simply true of you and I as human beings. It is more powerfully true of the God we belong to. Or to put it to you another way, God does too. He wants the best for His children, for you and me, because He loves us. One of the parts of His best for us as His children is a part that Jesus is addressing this morning. The Father wants in your life and mine as children that He has chosen through Christ, He wants us to be able to live our lives. Now listen, He wants us to be able to live our lives at peace with one another. He really wants that for us. And yet probably everybody in the church, preacher included, could stand up today and say, but that's not always our experience. We are, after all, and you know this, we are imperfect people. And sometimes in the course of our lives, as life unfolds for us, sometimes we struggle in our relationships with one another. Most of the time it looks like this. Somewhere along the line, in a relationship with a brother or a sister or a husband or a wife or a child or a parent, whoever it happens to be, somewhere along the line, one person in the relationship says something that should never have been said. Or does something that never, ever, ever should have been done. Ever. And there is this visceral reaction because we are human beings that what they said or what they did has hurt me. Made me angry, left me cold. And so in the course of our relationship, this peacefulness that we had between us that the Lord wants for us, all of a sudden in this context, that peace is just gone. And then there is damage done. There's hurt feelings, there's cold eyes, there's silence. They're never coming to my house again. We're never going to their house again. I'm not going to answer the phone if they call. Hurt and anger and silence, and sometimes, and you'll know, some of you know exactly what I'm talking about, sometimes it goes on and on and on and on. On top of that, when peace is missing, when it's been broken by us in our brokenness, loved ones, when peace is missing, it's hard on everybody involved. I know that sometimes we try to delude ourselves into thinking, well, if I'm struggling with Don here, if the peace between the two of us has been broken, that only affects Don and I. Everybody else is free and clear. It only affects Don and I. Well, let me clue you into something, loved ones. That's not true. When you and I are in conflict with someone over whatever it happens to be, when peace has been broken, it affects everyone involved. If Don and I are struggling, it affects Martha and Renee. It affects the people around us. It infects the relationships of the people around us. When peace is broken, listen, this is what Jesus is talking about. When peace is broken, it affects everybody involved. Now, I'll say to you this morning, because this is familiar territory for me. There are barriers to peace being restored, all kinds of them. Some of them are self-inflicted. All of them are sin-caused. And maybe most importantly, what we need to hear with our hearts and lives and minds this morning is when peace is broken, you and I don't have the capability, the ability, the wherewithal to bring it back, to heal it, to make it whole all over again. We can. In fact, the only path, you listen to me, loved ones, the only path to real peace comes through Jesus. I want you to hear. It always starts with Him making peace with us. He says what needs to be said. With His hands and His feet and His head and His side and His heart and His breath and His life, Jesus says, where peace has been broken between us and the Father, Jesus says, forgiven. And when He speaks the word forgiven, what is restored is what was broken. This peace that we lost because we're sinful human beings, that we lost with the Father, by the word forgiven of Christ, that peace is put back in place again. Jesus says what needs to be said. And then in your life and mine as His children, listen to this. He graces us, empowers us to take that same kind of peacemaking out to those things in our lives that are broken and hurt with others. This is the power of His grace working in our lives, what Jesus was pointing to. He doesn't send us out the door to fix it ourselves. He sends us back out into life, and He promises to go with us, and as He comes with us, He empowers and enables us to say what needs to be said. It's 5 words. Listen to them. I'm sorry. I forgive you. In those places where we have lost what God has given us, where we have become broken with someone He has placed in our lives, or that He desires for us, this peacefulness that reflects who He is in our life through Christ, that which He wants for us in that place by His power, moving in our lives as His children, He can recreate what has been lost. It comes in 5 words. I'm sorry. I forgive you. Now, if you're sitting there this morning and you're thinking, Pastor, but you don't know the situation that I'm in. You don't understand what I'm up against. You don't know how difficult this is. I'll say to you, no, I don't. But God does. And the Savior that has claimed you promises to go with you to the place that is broken so that by His power, through your voice and your heart, it can be healed again. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. But with God's help, you hear me this morning, it is absolutely possible. And I'll tell you today from my heart and by the word of the Lord, listen, that peacemaking, that restoring of peace that God brings into your life and mine and desires for us and through us is filled with blessing. As He makes peace between us and someone that it has been broken with, as God restores the peace, these burdens that we've been carrying are lifted. You know, being in conflict with someone, hurting with someone because of something that was said or done lately or a long time ago, gets to be like carrying an anvil around. It's on the back of your neck, it's on your shoulders, you carry it long enough and maybe you kid yourself into thinking you don't even notice it anymore. But you watch this. When God reaches in through His power and by His grace and lifts that weight off, just think how freeing that is. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning after you picked up the phone today or knocked on a door. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and that which was broken with a brother or a sister or a mom or a dad or a child is not broken anymore. Think of the wonder of the weight lifted. And then, my loved ones, and then what was lost can be found again. All of that is so pleasing to the Lord. That we live our lives at peace with one another is something the Lord really wants for us. And yet most of you know, it can get away from us so easily. And so today, this kind Savior brings us a gift. It's His restoring touch for us and through us. The power of His peace in our lives. Teaching of the Lord. I'm done now. If you would rise, please.